So I've spent 18 years of my life carrying and taking care of the women of my life. Um, because that's what's expected of me as a man and as a husband and as a father. When there's a problem, Eric, figure it out. Figure it out. I don't know how you do it, but figure it out. And I do that alone. And but I'm supposed to follow the parameters of your happiness, which is an impossible task. But I'm still supposed to find out a way to do it. I'm always seeking my partner's approval, but requiring none for her because she always has it. And that's something that we see in relationships when there's a narcissistic woman in this relationship. You're never going to get a two-way street. It's going to be one way all the time. When you restrict and control a man, it will destroy him every time. You may not see it on the outside, but you're gonna see it on the inside. And most of the times, if you're in the narcissist state of mind, you're not gonna see it at all. He's just gonna deteriorate before your eyes, and you're never gonna care. Sometimes when you're seeking results, when you're asking your man for results, you have to let him do what he has to do, and don't ask questions, because sometimes you have to do for your family the things that you don't normally have to do, but they have to be done. And sometimes you just have to accept that he loves his family and his wife or his girlfriend enough to do those things. It's not easy being a man in a relationship with a narcissistic woman. It tears at your every being. And most of the time you're not going to recover from that. But why should a man serve his woman if she won't serve him back? That's a big question. But we continue to do it as men because that's our role. That's our role in the relationship. To serve your woman, to serve your wife, to serve your partner, to serve your children. But oftentimes we get nothing back. What, as a woman, what do you bring to a relationship? What are you putting on the table for the relationship? We find this often, that there's not much. And I'm not saying that every woman is like this, but what I'm saying is that when you're in a relationship with a narcissistic woman that doesn't understand that she's a narcissistic woman, you're going to deal with these things, and you're going to be expected to adjust your whole way of thinking, adjust your whole way of life to accommodate for the abuse that you're going to take from her. And that's not fair. You know, are you bringing a cookbook? Are you bringing income? Are you bringing, uh, you know, a resounding comfort to your man after he puts in a hard work every day? Not saying that you don't, but the man not only has to carry the weight of the family, he has to carry the weight of his job. He has to carry the weight of the kids. He has to carry the weight of the world. So that way you don't have to suffer. But yet, a lot of women that are narcissistic, they'll turn around and they'll call their man narcissistic when they, in fact, don't understand that It's them that they're looking at in the mirror and not their man. We as men, we're continued to have expectations. I will continue to be asked of expectations. Are those expectations unrealistic? At one time when I was younger, I thought these expectations are unrealistic. I can never meet them. But my drive and resilience to take care of my family and to take care and make sure that my wife felt good about herself and to make sure that she had everything that she needed and that she knew that I cared about her in the only way that I know how to show her. And that's through acts. That's through acts of love. I worked hard. I took care of things. I did all the things that she did so she didn't have to. And in the end, with a narcissistic woman, it's not good enough because she would rather leave you for the 20% that she doesn't like than keep you for the 80% that she did like. And that's the truth. Now, one thing that we have a problem in relationships. And this isn't just, mainly it's a narcissistic part of it, but what we have is women have no accountability in a relationship. Men hold all the accountability. Women can make mistake after mistake after mistake, but men are quick when they're in love with their partners, they are quick to forgive. I have unconditional. Unconditional is part of my definition. I have no conditions. There is not a single excuse why I would ever leave my relationship, regardless if she's narcissistic or a neurotypical. I'm there. I made that commitment, and I will continue to work on what I can work on, and I will hopefully hope that my partner will work on things that she needs to work on in order to keep the family unit together, to keep our lives moving forward. One thing that we need to understand, though, is when there's children involved. Narcissistic women raise narcissistic daughters. That hit me when I read that. A friend of mine sent that to me. And when I read that, that hit me like a ton of bricks because you're enabling the disease to become generational. It's becoming a generational curse now. Because not only is your daughter going to be narcissistic, she's going to raise a narcissistic daughter and on and on and on. And this is going to become hereditary when it was initially a learned behavior. So I urge you, women, that if you are exerting these signs and symptoms, and we will cover them, that you do recognize and correct the way that you exert your influence on your children, because this gets passed down. It's an atmospheric situation. Everyone has the ability to be a narcissist, but a receptor has to be lit, and you're lighting these kids' receptors. And we're making these mistakes over and over and over again. And this applies to fathers too. This applies to men. So we have to find ways as men, and I've already covered the men's side of things, men with narcissism. We've covered all this. So it's the woman's turn this time. We have to find ways because you can't look up the statistics of women with narcissism because they never report it. I'd be surprised if it was more than 1%. I would be willing to bet it's under 1%. But I'll guarantee you it's a much higher percentage. Because what do we do in society? We live on Snapchat, we live on Instagram, we live on the most narcissistic things that evil can hand us and say, here you go. Light your own fire. Draw attention to yourself. And that's something that a lot of women aren't going to want to hear. They aren't going to want to hear that every time they pick up and they open up their Snapchat, they stick the dagger in their husband or their boyfriend a little bit deeper. Because Snapchat was made for one thing: attention. Instagram was made for one thing: attention. And that sparked the female's intuition to initiate narcissism within themselves. And we have to understand that. And as we go through life and we see this, we need to make everything viral and live and look at my picture and look at this, look at this, and look at this, and look at this. If you can't go 10 minutes without taking a picture of yourself, you have a problem. If you're updating your profile pic because I just look pretty today, I just want to look pretty, that's fine. Look pretty. But does the whole world need to see you? When you're not giving that to your man, you're giving it to the world. What do you think that does? A narcissistic woman is not going to care. She's not going to put that into consideration. She's going to take her own selfishness and she's going to put it and say, what's wrong with me wanting to express my individuality? Well, there's nothing wrong with that, except you're trying to attract the negative side of the attention, not a positive side of attention. In women, narcissism is less obvious because women are slick. Men are generally submissive when it comes to relationships and will give in easily to the issues. They give in. I give in all the time. I always give in. I'll get mad for about 5 minutes, think about it, and then I give in. Whether I know I'm right or whether I know I'm wrong, I just give in. And so I'm probably I'm in that position. I'm enabling her narcissism. That's a fact. And how many men out there are doing the same thing? Men will tolerate their woman's radical behavior more frequently. That's a fact. Typically, women will leave a relationship way before a man will ever consider it. That is a fact. Another statistic: a woman who has a body count over 5 to 6 men is only for herself. Think about that. If you have to continue to search and search and search and search, you are only for yourself. You go through relationships because you won't give. You're giving the wrong thing. And then you move on when you don't get the results you want. The problem with female narcissism is men take a beating, a psychological beating, an emotional beating, sometimes a physical beating. I was beat with a baseball bat. And I just took it. The issue with the beatings is there's no relief. We can't just go and bring it up to the boys in the locker room and say, hey, man, I'm really, really struggling with this, because we can't exert any kind of mental weakness because people will use your weakness against you. So we have to bottle it up and just deal with it, which generally for men, when you bottle something up for so long, eventually that energy's got to go somewhere. Where does it go? It goes everywhere except in a constructive place. And then you become destructive. There are several signs of women that have narcissistic behavioral disorder. There's the vulnerable narcissism. This form of narcissism in women can include traits like low self-esteem, emotional vulnerability, and inhibition. These traits can overlap with traditional notions of feminine. Why does it keep giving me all these words that are tough to say? Their feminine nature, femininity. So they use certain aspects of themselves to create a certain way of doing things. It's probably the most vague way I can put it. But abusive behavior is the second one. Narcissistic women can be verbally and physically aggressive towards their partners. They may use their feminine identity to exploit societal expectations of women as being nurturing and passive. That's a trick. Everything that narcissistic women are constantly trying to trick you. And they will try to lead you in a certain path, knowing that they're standing over here with the trap, and that eventually you're going to merge your way over and walk right into that trap. That's a narcissistic woman. She's always trying to trap you. Exploiting victimhood. This one makes me sick. I see it all the time in women. And at some point, we have to stop becoming victims. There are things that women can be victims of. But victims of a relationship that is struggling because you're struggling, you can't play the victim card when you're causing the problem. It doesn't work that way. And so in exploiting victimhood, narcissistic women may exploit their perceived victimhood to gain positions of power and control. Boom, they do it. For a narcissistic woman, her life struggles and pain are bigger than anyone else's. How many times have we heard that? She may not be boastful of her difficulties in life, but when you try to share your problems, she will divert the topic to her problems and make herself look like a martyr. I've been through that. I've seen how that happens. Men literally cannot sit down with a narcissistic partner and talk about their feelings or talk about what's bothering them, because your partner is going to get super defensive and butthurt and try to figure out how to take that problem and flip it right back to you that it's your fault somehow. When all we want sometimes is just for our partner to care enough to listen. And maybe at the end, when we've poured our heart out to them, to give us a hug and say, it's okay, I'm here for you. It's that simple. We need those things too. We need that comforting, that the woman that we're serving day in and day out will take that time to say, I have your back, just one time. And we don't get that enough. I can't. It's been so long since I've seen that. The next one, shame, hypersensitivity, and low self-esteem. Narcissism in women can more commonly affect a feminine form characterized by shame, hypersensitivity, and low self-esteem. Number 5, having unreasonably high sense of self-importance. Okay, women, I get it. You should feel good about yourself. You should feel good about all these things. If I'm with a woman, I want her to feel like a queen all the time. But you can't take the praise that I constantly give you and raise that bar so high I can never get to it. And that's what happens a lot with narcissistic women. They put that bar so high that even though you're trying to reach it, you never will. Because as soon as you start to get close to it, she raises it more. And it puts a man in an incomparable position to where he will never be able to succeed in the relationship. Number 6, requiring constant excessive admiration. This is what we're talking about when we're talking about social media. Snapchat is the most evil thing out there. It is so vain and so narcissistic. I wish they would make Snapchat go away. I don't use Snapchat. I can't stand it. Feeling that they deserve privileges and special treatment. That can go several ways. I think my partner should deserve special treatment. But does it go both ways? Does she ever think that I deserve special treatment? Number 8, expecting to be recognized as superior even without achievements. And that's on the men's side too. The men have that same trait where they just expect, narcissistic men and women both, they just expect, you know, things with, that they get a trophy for every little tiny little thing that they do. Number 9, making achievements and talent seem bigger than they are. It's relatively the same thing. Number 10, being cocky, manipulative, selfish, patronizing, and demanding. Number 11, she refuses to accept interpersonal boundaries. This happens a lot. A narcissistic woman does not respect boundaries in any relationship. She is self-centered and egotistical, which leads her to think she deserves preferential treatment over others, disrespecting our needs for personal space. She enjoys putting you in a spot by often crossing the line. This happens so often, where sometimes you just need 10 minutes. 10 minutes. I remember a time when I did nothing but come home, take care of kids. Come home, take care of kids. That's a father thing to do. I get it. But she had many a days where she didn't have to do that. And as I got burnt out, I never got relief until I was getting upset. And it shouldn't have to work that way. Number 12, she takes pleasure in your pain. Yes, absolutely. This is one of the weird things narcissists do. She suffers from low self-esteem, and to feel better, she tries to put others down. She makes snide remarks and overly criticizes to make you feel inferior. Even when you share your achievements with her, she displays haughty and arrogant behavior and brushes your accomplishments off as unimportant. Guys, how many times that happened? She talks only about herself. I, me. I want to do this. I want to do that. When a lot of the conversation should start out as we. A partnership is a we, not an I. She blames you for her mistakes. I've been beat to the ground with this one. It's always my fault, no matter what. A narcissistic woman believes she never makes a mistake, so when something goes wrong, it most certainly has to be the other person. She will never admit her mistake and look for ways to push the blame on someone else. I've seen that over and over and over again. She cannot tolerate slights. If a narcissistic woman ever finds you criticizing her or speaking ill of her, she quickly defends herself. She overreacts in such a manner that it makes you feel bad and guilty for doubting her. I have been in that situation as well. I'm not allowed to ask questions questioning her for anything, because then I'm going to be made to feel bad for asking the question. She has no regard for your feelings. Showing no empathy is a distinctive hallmark of narcissistic people. Caring for you is not something that comes easily to them. You may have a fever, but she still complains about you falling ill the day she wants to spend time with you. She guilt trips you into doing things the way she wants it. Next, she swings between idealizing and devaluating. During the initial days, a narcissistic woman will love bomb you and get you addicted to her affection. Guilty. I've had that happen to me. Once she feels you have grown dependent on them, she will swiftly pull the rug from under your feet. She enjoys playing with emotions and idealizing and devaluing you. How true that is. She is materialistic. And she'll sit there and tell you she's not materialistic, but in the other world, she is. She just doesn't want to admit it. Next, she believes everyone envies her. Maintaining long-term friends or relationships is difficult for a narcissistic woman, as she feels everyone is jealous of her. Since she is vain and considers herself superior to others, she refrains from acknowledging others' achievements over her, which often damages her relationships. Yes, this happens. Instead of taking the aggression out of every room you're in, she heightens it and wants to own the room all the time, which causes the narcissism causes this to go in there and just own the room. Well, that makes people mad. It makes people uncomfortable. It makes people defensive. Next, she withholds sex as a punishment. Yes, guys, the main punishment we all get. As a partner, if a narcissistic woman feels that you have let her down, she will find ways to punish you. Giving you the silent treatment or withholding sex is her way to ensure that you do not ever try to make her feel unimportant or inferior. Next, she is addicted to social media. Yes, this is a huge problem. Next, some narcissists are passive aggressive, which means they show aggression indirectly. So they're tricky with it. They're tricky with their aggression. They may keep ignoring your calls or text after a trivial disagreement, give you the silent treatment, or let you know about their disgust through others. I've seen that 1,000 times. So I found a quote by a doctor, a psychiatrist, Sam Vaknin, that male narcissists are more likely to emphasize their intellect, power, and money, while women narcissists play up their body, looks, and sexuality. That's exactly the difference between the two. It can't get more simple than that. That is absolutely true, Shauna. We've been incubating this behavior for a long time. We should be securing good lifestyles with your partner. We forgot how to do that. And that's the whole point of me doing both sides of the fence on the narcissism, because narcissism is a very huge problem in our everyday American society. So, and it makes sense now why other countries restrict it so heavily, because they're sitting there watching the fabric of our country fall apart, because all we are I and self people. We're not we people anymore. And that's a huge problem, and we're watching our country deteriorate because of it. Narcissistic women lack sensitivity and the ability to empathize with others, as their fake confidence bellies their fragile ego. Yep. A narcissistic personality disorder is a condition in which the person considers themselves to be too important and too superior to others. It is because they dwell in their bubble of superiority and are unable to handle even the slightest criticism. Dealing with such women can easily take a toll on your mental health. Men, we get this beating all the time. And I urge you to find someone you can talk to. I know it's hard. I know it's difficult, but you have to do it. We can't keep taking the psychological warfare anymore. We've developed this society as an American structure, and now we have to deal with it. And part of that is going to be we have to be able to take care of ourselves as men. Otherwise, our families are going to crumble to the ground. It's up to us. It always is. But sometimes it's okay to ask for a little bit of help. How do we deal with narcissistic women? There are tricks to the trade. Acknowledge the fact. As a man, you have to look at her and go, I'm pretty sure she's a narcissist. You need to acknowledge the fact that the woman you are with is a narcissist. She may be sweet and loving at first, but her attitude changes when you make a mistake. That's key. Watch what happens when you make a mistake, and now her whole strategy towards you has altered to a different state. She will always walk around you instead of walk with you. And that's going to be a big thing. You may feel that your shortcomings prompt her rude, self-righteous behavior, but in reality, she's a narcissist, flat out. And nothing you do will change that about her. There's no cure for narcissism, as we've learned in the men's side of things. Same applies to the women. There's no cure. You're not going to just wake up one day and everything's going to be okay. Next, establish clear boundaries. Once you know how your narcissistic partner behaves, create firm and clear boundaries. This is to protect yourself from her presumptuous behavior while also keeping your relationship intact. This is important. If you have to walk away, walk away. If you need to go take a drive, go take a drive. If you have to work over for an extra half hour at work, do it. Whatever you got to do, if you have whatever capabilities you have, you utilize them. Those are resources to help you with your mental health. And you can also call crisis lines. Crisis lines are a great way to get it out, talk it out with somebody who works. These crisis lines are 24 hours a day, guys. I've called them probably 5 or 6 times in my life. When I get to that point where I just can't handle it, I call them and they walk me through things. And then they check on me a few days later. It's a great tool. You have to look in your area and find out what the crisis line numbers are. I know back home, it's Westwood Behavioral. They've got a 24-hour crisis line number. Use them, fellas. It helps. At least you get to dump that aggression and anger somewhere. Don't let her mess with you. Her manipulation tactics might compel you to work hard to be on her good side. However, your efforts might never be enough for her. That's a fact. That's something that we will go through with narcissistic women. We will never be good enough for them. Instead, have faith in yourself and do not let your own self-confidence dwindle. Do not allow her remarks to affect you deeply. Just understand right off the bat that she's going to attack you with things that she thinks is going to hurt you. So put your wall up and let them bounce off. Avoid criticizing her. She is not someone to take criticism easily due to her conceited nature. So try to avoid criticizing her as much as you can. Instead, frame your words in such a way that it does not look like a reproach, rather a suggestion that will benefit her in some way. That's strategic and it's effective. And just think about how you say things. If you're going to say, well, that was stupid, don't say, well, that was stupid. Say, well, why did you do it that way? It's less confrontational and you allow her to explain herself. And then you can say, okay, that makes sense. Instead of saying, well, that's dumb. And now you're going to get attacked. So don't criticize her. The reason part of her problem is she has low self-esteem. So if you're telling her she's dumb, you're lowering her self-esteem, which is going to enhance her defense mechanism, which is her narcissistic behavior. And it's going to unleash further damage on you. So there you go. If you want to know how to not get pounded on, that's how you do it. Speak up when needed. At times when she crosses the boundaries, you need to speak up for yourself. Let her know her actions impact you and that you won't tolerate certain behavior in a relationship. Do not let her feel that she can walk over you without any consequences. That is the big one for narcissistic women. You have to give them consequences because they will continue to escalate the behavior to crush you until you put your foot down and say, that's enough. There's going to be no more of this. I will not put up with it. And be blunt and direct. Remember, it's not your fault, guys. It's not your fault. And you know, it's her fault, but it's also a condition that she can't cure. So, but it's going to take both of you to solve this problem, to understand each other and to understand the illness that's going on. Next, create distance between you and her. Like I said, if you have to remove yourself from a situation, please do. Avoid reacting. Do not react. You will end up in jail. What happens when a narcissistic woman causes you to react? You react. She plays the victim card. You go to jail And no judge is going to give you the benefit of the doubt ever, 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 ever. You're going to jail every time. Doesn't matter what she did, you're going to jail. So just don't react. Maintain other relations. Generally, narcissistic people they will try to keep you from your relationships. They may say that they're not going to keep you from your relationships, but then they make it extremely impossible for you to make time to have your other relationships with your friends. I'm not saying that as a non-personal thing. Do not cut off from your friends and family. Being in a difficult relationship can impact your other relations. Make efforts to keep in touch with those who matter. Having a social circle helps to take your mind off unwanted stress. Guys, the older you get, the more stress you take on, the higher your blood pressure goes, the more likely you're going to have a heart attack or stroke. Flat out facts. So we have a lot at stake in our with this mental health issue. There's a lot of factors at stake, and we need to start taking the time to protect ourselves, because these things are going to wear on our mind and our body, and we are going to just crumble into nothing and probably end up dead. We can only handle so much. Lastly, seek professional help. Dealing with a narcissistic woman is not an easy thing to do. When you feel you are unable to handle it anymore, get support from a professional counselor. Heavily agree. You may seek help for yourself and, if possible, for your partner too. I highly recommend that. If there's an issue, it's best to get both of you in the same room, because a lot of times there's a communication gap, and maybe one person seeing it one way, the other person seeing it the other way, and you bring in a mediator that's going to kind of bridge that gap and maybe bring you guys together to some kind of conclusion that's going to benefit your relationship. A good professional counselor will guide you on how to tackle your partner without hurting their feelings or your own. So, ladies, I need you to really look into some of these symptoms. Whether or not you think you have a problem, look at these. And replay this over and over and over again. I'm going to save my outline. If you want me to forward it over to you, I will. And you can read it over and over and over again and say, is this me or is it not me? Because I know from my own experience, you can't start to solve your mental health issues without looking at yourself in the mirror and seeing your mental health issues. So sometimes it's going to take something like self-identification. Self-identification is the biggest key to mental health. If you cannot identify it with yourself, you're not going to get better. Denial is the key to destruction. So I'm getting more suggestions on via text messages and DMs. Sometimes, and I've been guilty of this. So my dear friend that just brought this up, I'm guilty of this myself. Back in the day, I was a super phone gamer, and I would prioritize the game over my partner. So me, as I am a self-identified narcissist, I have been there, and it took me a long time to realize this is damaging my partner. I'm putting hours into phone games when I have this beautiful woman over here that I should be nurturing, that I should be making feel special. So think about that. Where does your attention go? As a man that has both sides of all the fences about everything that's going on in this world, it's important to identify what's going on, especially in your own home. You should know the temperature of everything going on in your own home. So if you're the narcissistic partner and and you have a partner that's saying, hey man, can you pay attention to me a little bit? Do it. Just do it. Put the phone down. This phone isn't going to change your life. It's not going to change your life as much, unless you're a day trader and you got to day trade all day. This phone isn't going to change your life. That partner that's waiting on affection is going to change your life. And if you're the female narcissist and you're with a man that is not a narcissist, he's waiting to please you. He wants to make you feel good. He wants you to show him that love because he's put all the food on the table. He's put all the money in the bank account. He's made sure that the house is taken care of. He's making sure that you have all these things that you need. And yeah, that, you know what us men don't do good at? We don't do a real good job of showing affection. So when we're asking for affection, that's probably a good time to take it. Because you might not always get that begging for affection. Take advantage. Put the phone down. Phones aren't that important. Snapchat sucks. If you're over 30 years old and you're still playing on Snapchat, you're a fucking child. Sorry, I'm not supposed to say bad words on this show. I save that for my political show. But bro, if you're over 30 years old and you're still playing with Snapchat, grow up. Nobody cares about that. There's real life out there that you should be focusing on. But that is going to be my show for the day. I'm probably going to end up having a part 4 of narcissism. I'm on part 3 right now, but I keep getting all these thoughts and stuff coming at me, and I want to make sure that I cover everything. And so if I come up with some more stuff, there may be a part 4. But thank you everyone out there for giving me suggestions and sending me down rabbit holes. I highly appreciate it. Not only do I work a full-time job, I have 3 days that I podcast. I got a book tour I'm trying to plan. I've got all these. I got a plate. I got a plate in front of me that's full of lobster right now that I got to start eating it. So, so I appreciate all the extra help. It helps me with my research when you guys basically give me the cheat sheet. So thank you, everyone. And I hope if anyone needs to reach out and talk about the things that I've talked about, please don't hesitate. I am an open book. I will be reasonable. I promise I will not be conflicting. I'm just here to help people. I want to bring awareness to things and work on your relationships. They're important. There's nothing more important than working on your relationship, period. All right. So everybody take care. Have a good week and happy Thanksgiving. I'll see you guys on this show next Thursday. Or no, not next Thursday, next Monday. All right. See you.